The wrench slipped from Jake Morrison's oil-stained fingers as the emergency broadcast crackled through his garage's ancient speakers. For 8 years, he'd been nothing more than a backwater mechanic on Kepler 442b, fixing hoverbikes and atmospheric processors. Nobody questioned the quiet human who kept to himself, who never talked about his past, who sometimes stared at the stars with an expression that made locals uncomfortable. Zephyrian fleet has broken through the outer rim defenses. All military personnel, active and reserve, report immediately. Jake's hands trembled as he reached for the comm unit, his carefully constructed life crashing down around him. The voice belonged to Admiral Torres, his former commanding officer, the man who'd signed Jake's discharge papers after the Proxima incident, the man who'd promised him a quiet retirement if he never spoke of what really happened in the void between stars. Morrison. The voice that answered was crisp, professional, nothing like the gruff mechanic's growl Jake had cultivated. Service number 77 Alpha 991. Static. Then, Jesus Christ, Ghost. We thought you were dead. Ghost. Nobody had called him that in 8 years. The call sign belonged to another man, another life. Captain Jake Ghost Morrison, ace pilot of the UES Retribution, the man who'd single-handedly held off an entire Kryllian battle group while a civilian transport escaped. The man who'd pulled maneuvers that defied physics and made enemy fleets disappear into the dark. I've been dead for 8 years, Admiral. What changed? The Zephyrians have something new. Ships that move like... Torres paused, and Jake could hear the fear in his silence. They move like you used to, Ghost. Our best pilots are dropping like flies. We've lost 17 systems in 3 days. Jake closed his eyes, seeing the faces of pilots he'd trained. Men barely old enough to shave who thought war was glory and honor. How many are left? Of the pilots who learned your techniques? 3. Davidson got slagged over Titan yesterday. Rodriguez bought it defending Mars. It's just Hawkins now, and he's not you, Ghost. None of them were. The garage suddenly felt smaller, the walls pressing in. Outside, the twin suns of Kepler 442b painted everything in amber light, but Jake saw only the cold stars of his nightmares. My ship, Retribution, is still in dry dock. Waiting for you, the brass figured. They hoped you might. I'll be there in 6 hours. Jake was already moving, muscle memory taking over. Hidden panels in his workshop slid open, revealing flight gear that hadn't seen daylight in 8 years. The leather jacket still fit perfectly, the helmet's HUD flickering to life at his touch. As he sealed the last of his equipment cases, Jake caught his reflection in the garage's cracked mirror. The mechanic was gone. In his place stood something harder, more dangerous. Something the galaxy had tried very hard to forget. The Ghost was coming home. The UES Retribution hung in Luna shipyard like a sleeping predator. Jake stood at the observation deck's reinforced viewport, studying his ship with the critical eye of a lover reunited after years apart. She was different, new armor plating, upgraded weapon systems, energy signatures he didn't recognize. We kept her in perfect condition, Torres said, joining him at the window. The Admiral had aged badly. Gray streaked his dark hair, and new lines mapped the stress of commanding a losing war. Added some improvements based on your old combat reports. Thought you might appreciate them. She's beautiful. Jake's voice was soft, almost reverent. But she's not the same ship. Neither are you. Jake turned, catching something in Torres's tone. Meaning, the Zephyrians aren't just winning, Ghost. They're learning. Every battle, every engagement, they adapt faster than anything we've ever seen. It's like they're studying us, figuring out how humans think, how we fight. Torres pulled up a holographic display showing recent battle footage. Watch this. The holo showed a standard human formation, 3 destroyers in a defensive triangle, fighters screening the flanks. Textbook Imperial Navy doctrine. Then the Zephyrian ships arrived, sleek things that moved like liquid mercury through space. But it wasn't their speed that made Jake's blood run cold. It was their tactics. They're using our own maneuvers against us, Jake breathed. That's the Kandarian weave, but inverted. And that's a modified Hellion strike. Maneuvers you created, Torres said grimly. Techniques you taught to every pilot in the fleet. Somehow they know everything we know. Everything you taught us. Jake studied the footage, his tactical mind analyzing each movement, each formation shift. The Zephyrians fought with inhuman precision, but there was something else. Something that made his enhanced reflexes scream warnings. There, he said, freezing the display. Third ship from the left. Watch its approach vector. He traced the attack pattern with his finger. That's not just human tactics. That's human thinking. The micro-corrections, the split-second hesitations. You think they have humans? No. Jake's voice went deadly quiet. I think they have something worse. They have our memories. Before Torres could respond, alarms began wailing throughout the shipyard. Red emergency lighting bathed everything in crimson as automated voices announced. Enemy contacts detected. All personnel to battle stations. This is not a drill. Through the viewport, space lit up with weapon fire. Zephyrian ships materialized from nowhere, their hulls shimmering with energy fields that bent light around them. They moved through the outer defenses like ghosts, untouchable, unstoppable. Get me to my ship, Jake said, already running toward the hangar bay. Now. Ghost, you haven't flown combat in 8 years. Admiral. Jake's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. They want to dance with a ghost? Let's show them what haunts the dark. The Retribution came alive under Jake's touch like a weapon finding its master's hand. 8 years melted away as his fingers danced across controls that felt more familiar than his own heartbeat. The ship's AI, designation Aria, welcomed him with a voice like honey over steel. Ghost protocol activated. All systems nominal. Welcome back, Captain. Through the cockpit's neural interface, Jake felt the ship's consciousness merge with his own. Enhanced reflexes kicked in, time seeming to slow as adrenaline and cybernetic implants worked in perfect harmony. The Retribution wasn't just a ship. She was an extension of his will, his anger, his need for answers. Ghost, you have 17 hostiles incoming. Torres's voice crackled over the comm. Our defensive perimeter is compromised. Permission to engage. Jake watched the tactical display, seeing patterns within patterns. The Zephyrian ships moved with purpose, but there was something wrong with their formation. Too perfect. Too predictable. Negative control. I'm going hunting. He slammed the throttle forward, the Retribution shooting out of the hangar like a bullet. The first Zephyrian fighter that intercepted him died before it could register the threat. Jake's plasma cannon spoke with surgical precision, punching through exotic armor that had shrugged off entire battle groups. But as the ship exploded, Jake saw something that made his enhanced blood run cold. In the split second before the hull breached, he glimpsed the pilot. It was human. Control. I need a sensor sweep on that debris, Jake snapped, rolling the Retribution through a complex evasive pattern as 3 more fighters converged on his position. Full spectrum analysis. Roger that, Ghost. Be advised, you have multiple contacts moving to flank. Jake was already moving, his ship dancing between energy beams that should have been impossible to avoid. The Zephyrian pilots were good, better than good. They flew with inhuman precision, their reactions faster than biology should allow. Just like him, the realization hit like a physical blow. These weren't just humans flying Zephyrian ships. These were humans like him, enhanced, augmented, modified beyond the limits of baseline humanity. Aria, scan the enemy fighters. I need biometric analysis. Scanning. Captain, I'm detecting human neural patterns, but they're wrong. Altered. The enhancement signatures are similar to your own, but more extensive. Jake destroyed another fighter. This one with a pilot whose reflexes almost matched his own. Almost. Show me the records of every pilot who went missing during deep space recon missions in the last decade. The list appeared on his HUD, and Jake's stomach dropped. 37 names. 37 of the best pilots humanity had ever produced, all vanished during routine missions in contested space. All presumed dead. All enhanced like him. Ghost, massive energy signature incoming. Torres's voice was tight with panic. Something big just dropped out of hyperspace at the system's edge. Jake pulled the Retribution into a climbing turn, positioning himself between Luna and whatever was coming. On his sensors, a ship larger than anything in the Imperial fleet materialized from the void. It was beautiful and terrible, organic curves married to crystalline technology, pulsing with energy that hurt to look at directly. From its hull, a familiar voice spoke across all frequencies. "Hello, Jake. We've been waiting for you." The voice belonged to Marcus Reed, his former wingman, his best friend, the man who died saving a colony ship 8 years ago in the Vega system, the man Jake had watched burn. "Marcus is dead." Jake's voice was flat, emotionless, but his hands trembled on the controls. "I watched him die." "Did you?" The voice from the massive ship held warmth, familiarity, and something else. Something that sounded almost like pity. "You watched a ship explode, Jake. You never found a body." The Retribution hung in space, weapons trained on the Zephyrian dreadnought, but Jake's finger hesitated over the firing controls. Around Luna, the battle raged on, but it seemed distant now, unimportant compared to the impossible voice speaking from the void. "Prove it," Jake said finally. "Tell me something only Marcus would know." Laughter echoed across the calm. Rich, genuine, achingly familiar. "You still have nightmares about the Candor run. Not about the fighting, not about the kills. About the civilian transport we couldn't reach in time. 700 souls, Jake. You counted every one." Jake's breath caught. He'd never told anyone about the nightmares, never spoken of how the faces of those civilians haunted his dreams. Only Marcus had been there in the aftermath, had seen him break down in his quarters, had helped him put the pieces back together. "The Zephyrians found me drifting in an escape pod." The voice continued, gentler now. "More dead than alive. They saved me, Jake. Gave me something better than humanity ever could. Purpose. Freedom from the nightmares." On the tactical display, more ships were arriving, not Zephyrian vessels, but something else entirely. Ships that looked human but moved wrong, their hulls pulsing with organic light. Each one broadcasted a familiar signature, a neural pattern Jake recognized. His squadron, his friends, his brothers in arms, all thought dead, all supposedly lost in the dark between stars. "We're not prisoners, Jake." Marcus's voice was warm, persuasive. "We're partners. The Zephyrians don't want to destroy humanity. They want to perfect it, to take us beyond the limitations of flesh and fear and mortality. By turning us into weapons against our own species, by showing us what we could become." The massive ship began to move closer, and Jake could see details now. The way its hull seemed to breathe, the crystalline structures that pulsed with each heartbeat of some vast consciousness. The enhancement process you underwent was crude, primitive. A child's toy compared to what they can offer. Jake thought of his cybernetic implants, the neural interfaces that let him fly impossible maneuvers, the reaction times that pushed him beyond human limits. He'd always wondered why the military had chosen him for the experimental program, why he'd been selected from thousands of candidates. "You were bait," he whispered, understanding flooding through him. "All of us enhanced pilots. We weren't experiments. We were bait. The most gifted pilots humanity could produce," Marcus confirmed. "Enhanced to superhuman levels, then sent into deep space where we could be collected. The Zephyrians have been studying human potential for decades, Jake. We represent the pinnacle of your species' evolution." Around Luna, human ships were falling back, their formations breaking under the assault of pilots who knew every tactic, every maneuver, every weakness of Imperial doctrine, because they'd helped write it. "Join us," Marcus said. "Let them show you what you could become, what we've all become." Jake closed his eyes, feeling the weight of 8 years' worth of guilt and grief. The man speaking wasn't his friend, couldn't be his friend. But the voice, the memories, the impossible knowledge. "I need time to think. You have 30 seconds before we glass Luna." Jake's eyes snapped open. On his sensors, energy readings from the Zephyrian fleet were spiking, weapons charging for a planetary bombardment that would turn Earth's moon into molten slag. 50 million people lived on Luna. 50 million souls who would die while he wrestled with ghosts. The choice was no choice at all. "Arya, give me everything," Jake whispered, his hands steady on the controls for the first time in 8 years. "Full power, all systems. Override safety protocols. Captain, full power will burn out your neural interfaces." The feedback could. "Do it." The Retribution screamed to life around him, fusion reactors pushing beyond their design limits, weapons systems drawing power that should have been impossible. Jake felt the ship's consciousness merge with his own until he couldn't tell where he ended and the machine began. His enhanced nervous system caught fire as data flowed faster than biology could process, but he held on, using pain as an anchor to humanity. "Marcus," he called across the comm, "you want to see what humans can become? Let me show you." Jake rolled the Retribution into an attack run that defied every law of physics he'd ever learned. The ship moved like liquid lightning, slipping between energy beams that should have vaporized her, dancing through overlapping kill zones with impossible grace. His former squadron mates tried to intercept him, but they flew like Zephyrians now, perfectly coordinated but predictable, efficient but without the chaotic spark that made humans dangerous. They'd forgotten how to be beautifully, recklessly human. The first ship Jake killed had been piloted by Davis, his old tail gunner. The second belonged to Rodriguez, who'd always been too aggressive for his own good. Jake felt each death like a physical wound, but he didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Luna burned behind him, cities lighting up under orbital bombardment, but he carved through enemy formations like an avenging angel. "You're destroying yourself for nothing." Marcus's voice carried rage now, frustration. "Look at what they've done to you. 8 years hiding like a coward while your people died." "Yeah," Jake said, lining up on the massive dreadnought's core. "I hid. I ran. I tried to forget." His targeting systems locked on, weapons charging for a shot that would either end the war or end him. "But I remembered something you forgot, Marcus." "What's that?" "Humans don't surrender." The Retribution fired everything she had in one devastating volley. Plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, particle beams. 8 years' worth of rage and grief focused into a single moment of perfect destruction. The dreadnought's shields flared, held, then shattered like glass. But the ship didn't die. Instead, it began to change, hull plates shifting, revealing something beneath the metal, something organic and alien and vast. Jake realized with growing horror that the dreadnought wasn't a ship at all. It was a living thing, a creature of impossible size wearing technology like jewelry. "Did you think we were the apex predators of space?" Marcus's laughter was alien now, harmonizing with voices that had never been human. "We're children, Jake. Beloved pets in a menagerie that spans the galaxy." Jake watched as more creatures emerged from hyperspace, beings of crystalline beauty and terrible purpose, older than human civilization, vast beyond comprehension. The Zephyrians weren't conquerors. They were collectors, gathering the most promising specimens from each species they encountered. "The enhancement program was never about creating super soldiers," Jake whispered, understanding finally dawning. "It was about creating collectibles. The finest examples of human potential," Marcus agreed. "Preserved forever in service to our betters." Jake looked at Luna, at Earth rising blue and beautiful beyond it, at the billions of souls who would become trophies in an alien collection. His neural interfaces were burning out, his body failing, but the Retribution still had one last gift to give. He armed the ship's quantum core and set course for the largest creature. If he couldn't save humanity, maybe he could at least show them how humans died. "Ghost to all ships," he broadcast on all frequencies. "Remember us as we were, not as they would make us. And tell them we burned bright." The Retribution disappeared in a flash of pure energy that briefly outshone the sun, taking the creature and 3 enemy battle groups with her. It wasn't victory, the alien fleet was vast beyond imagining, but it was a statement written in fire across the void. Humanity would not go gentle into that good night. Even ghosts could burn.